Hello everyone and welcome back to another interesting tutorial. So in today's video, I'll be showing us how to create and style this organza or organdy structure as we can see here, and I'll be making use of a fishing line. So if this is what you're interested in, kindly watch this video to the end. Also give this video a thumbs up and let's get started. So I'm going to be using 1 yard of organdy and also my fishing line of 1.20 mm. You can see how thin our fishing line is. So this is the organza I'll be working with and it's 1 yard. So the first thing I'll be doing is to roll the sides of my organdy. And I'm going to be explaining two methods in this video today. So for the first method, I'll be making use of this piece of organza here. I'll be folding it into 1/2 inch. Then I'll be sewing at the very tip of that 1/2 inch. That is, I'll be sewing about 0.125 inch. That is, the wideness there should not be too much, just enough for our fishing line to pass through. So it should not be too wide. I'm also going to make another line. I'll fold 1/2 inch again, then sew at the very tip of that 1/2 inch line there. So again, our hole should not be too wide, just enough for our fishing line to pass through. So we need it to be firm when our fishing line is inside. So this is what we're having, and I'll just do a third line for better illustration. So I'll fold 1/2 inch again, then sew at the tip, sewing about 0.125. So guys, this is the first method and I'm using this piece of organza fabric to illustrate it. Then I'll be using the organdy for the second method. So now I'm going to be inserting my fishing line inside the holes I've created. So I'm going to be inserting it, and at this point my fishing line got stuck. So I'm going to look for how to make it to keep moving. So you can see this organza I'm using here is not the same length with our organdy. I just cut out a short piece of organza to show us the first method. So this organza here is about 30 inches long, and I'm having a little bit of issues inserting my fishing line boning, while the organdy we're working with is 72 inches long. So I've inserted the first fishing line. I'll be inserting the second one. So this method takes a little bit of time compared to the second method I'll be showing us. So I'm inserting my boning again, my fishing line again. So this method is kind of time consuming. So and it requires a little bit of patience, like you need to be patient with this. So for this first method, I'm going to be using my normal footer on my machine, while for the second method, I'm going to be using my left footer. Then at this point, my sewing was too thin at that point. My fishing line could not pass through. So I had to cut off a place for the fishing line to come out from. So that's one of the issues I'm having with this first method. But in case we don't have a left footer, this method is what we are going to be using. So we have to make sure the lines we're creating is not too close and just enough for our boning to pass through. So for my second method now, for the organdy, I'm going to be rolling the side, like how we usually hem the the sides of our fabric of our dresses. I'm going to be rolling the side, and I'm rolling it very small because I'll be passing my boning through it. So it should not be too wide. I'll be folding the hem very small. So you can see how long the organdy is compared to the organza we used for the first method. So inserting the boning through something this long is going to take the whole day. So I'm going to insert my fishing line now into that hole I've sewn. Then it got stuck here. I'm just going to look for how to make it to keep moving. Like I said, the length of our organza is 72 inches. So inserting it this way is going to take a whole lot of time. So I've cut out my my fishing line, and I didn't cut it at the edge. I left some allowance before cutting my fishing line. So now I'm going to be marking 1/2 inch intervals between each line. So from the starting of my organza, I'll be marking 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and I'm going to mark that all the way to the end of my organza. Then I'm going to connect the line. So I'm trying to get a straight line here. So I'll connect that all the way to the end of my organza. So the pen is a little bit dull. I didn't want to use a colored pen. So if you can see the 1/2 inch lines I've created. So now this 1/2 inch line is where I'm going to be placing my fishing line, exactly on the straight lines I've created there. That is where I'm going to be placing my fishing line. Then I'm going to be sewing. And I've also changed my footer to a left footer. So this left footer now makes the sewing easier. So I'm going to sew, and as I'm sewing, I'm going to ensure that the boning remains on the straight line I drew out on the fabric. So this footer enables us to sew as close to the fishing line as possible. So this is what we are having here. You can see how tight the hole is. We're not having any excess space remaining after inserting the fishing line. So I'll be folding the next 1/2 inch and be sewing my fishing line on it. So I've done that for several lines. As you can see, everything is close together. Came out very beautiful. So this is what we have, and you can see the spacing between each fishing line is about 0.25 inches. So after folding 1/2 inch and sewing, we are left with 0.25 space between each fishing line. So now I'm going to be sewing another one for us to see. And at this point, I didn't mark my 1/2 inch all the way on my fabric again. It was taking the whole time. So I'm just going to be eyeballing this. I'll place my fishing line and eyeball it till I'm getting about 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to start sewing. So this now, we can't mark 1/2 inch all the way on 1 yard of fabric. So as you are sewing, you are going to be eyeballing it, making sure you are reducing the excess till you have about 1/2 inch. Then you sew. So where there is excess, you adjust it till it's 1/2 inch. Then you sew. So you don't need to mark half inch on your fabric. You might not be able to achieve it that way. So you can see what I'm having. The spacing between each thread line is 0.25 and the spacing between each fishing line is 0.5. So whatever we're sewing, we have to make sure it is close. They are all close together. It makes it finer that way. So the spacing in between each thread line should be 0.25. If it's more than, it might not come out so well. And look at what we have. So I'm just going to show us one more time, so for better understanding. And this is the back. This is how the back looks. Very neat. So for the last illustration, this part that I have already sewn will be facing the left hand side. Then my fishing line too also will be on the left hand side. Then I'm going to pick a strand of my fishing line and place it underneath the organza, then pick it. If I'm having more than half inch there, I'm going to adjust it till I'm having half inch. Then I'm going to be sewing close to the fishing line. So that is how I achieved this. I'm going to do that for the remaining fabric I have here. So I'll be adjusting it at every point, making sure I'm sewing on the half inch. So you can use a left footer for this, but if you don't have a left footer, then you can use the first method where you sew all the lines before inserting your fishing line. But with a left footer, you can achieve both the insertion of the fishing line and also sewing of the organza at once, and it makes it neater. So if you can get a left footer, that will be better. So this is it. So this is what I'm having after that. Look at how beautiful it came out. Very fine and neat. Now I'm going to be hemming the down, and you can also style this. I'll be showing us how to style this very shortly. I'm going to be cutting out the excess fishing line. Then I'll push my organza down a bit so I can cut half inch out of my fishing line, so we can pipe the edge. I don't want the fishing line to be on the parts where I'm going to be piping, so I'll just be pulling my organza down a bit and cutting out half inch away from my fishing line. So I'll cut out a piece of fabric that I'll be using to pipe the two sides. So guys, please let me know in the comments section which of this method you prefer, method 1 or method 2, and I'll be glad to get your response. So to style this structure now, you can style this anyhow you want it to be. You can be creative about the styling of this structure, and you can also make it longer than this or shorter depending on what style you are working with. You can see how lovely this is. So guys, if you've not liked this video yet, please give this video a thumbs up and also share this video to your group chat or your community so they can also learn from this amazing tutorial here. So this is it. Our structure here is giving all it's meant to give. Thank you so much, guys, for watching, and see you in my next video.